on their Canada student loans. For people experiencing homelessness, we are doubling the Reaching Home program, which provides funding to communities to help them address their local needs. For anyone fleeing domestic or gender-based violence, we will boost funding for shelters that provide sanctuary when self-isolating at home is simply not an option. And to support immediate needs in First Nations, Inuit and Métis Nation communities, we are setting up a distinctions-based Indigenous Community Support Fund. This list is by no means exhaustive, but these are some of the things our government is doing to make sure that no matter where you live, what you do, or who you are, you will get the support you need during this time. In Canada, public health should never hinge on financial considerations. Aujourd'hui, on annonce un plan.
Today, we're announcing a plan to help people. We're focusing on the most pressing needs. But as I've said right from the outset, our response will change as the situation evolves as well. No matter what the future holds for us, Canadians can count on us. Our work is to support you. Our job is to give you a helping hand when you need it most. And this is what we're doing through the measures we've announced to date. And this is what we'll continue to do as well.
I want to turn to additional measures for businesses as part of this economic plan. To help businesses navigate these uncertain economic times, Export Development Canada will provide support to Canadian companies affected by the global situation. For farmers and our primary food producers, we will boost Farm Credit Canada. And we know some sectors of our economy are more vulnerable to COVID-19 than others. That's why in the coming days, we'll be looking at ways in which we can support them all, including through instruments like the Canada account. L'annonce d'aujourd'hui donne suite aux mesures que nous avons déjà prises.
Today's announcement builds on the announcements we've already made to protect our economy and the health of Canadians. Minister Morneau has also obtained a commitment from Canadian banks to support businesses and people affected by COVID-19. I know that he's in regular contact on this file, and he's in contact also with business leaders, union leaders, as well as his international counterparts as well.
He's paying close attention to the economic impacts of decisions we make across the board to slow the spread of this virus. On Monday, I announced that Canada was closing its air borders to people who are not Canadian citizens or permanent residents, with some exceptions. We also announced a range of other measures on travel. But travel restrictions will not apply to commerce or trade. We are working continuously to ensure the supply of important goods to Canada. Today, we've announced $27 billion in direct support to Canadian workers and businesses, plus $55 billion to meet liquidity needs of Canadian businesses and households to help stabilize the economy through tax deferrals. Economic measures will ensure that our economy rebounds after this. And while we are taking a significant step today to help families get through these challenging times, our government is prepared to do more. But whether we're talking about economic, travel, or health measures, collaboration and coordination remains essential. Our team is in constant communication with our colleagues in the provinces and territories, as well as Indigenous leaders and communities, to ensure that we have a coordinated, Canada-wide approach so we face this and recover from this together. We're also working with our international counterparts. Over the last number of days, I've spoken with leaders from around the world, including with fellow G7 leaders. Working together is how we'll get through this, as families, as a community, as a country. Like many of you, over the past few days, I've seen stories of people doing just that, of people donating money to food banks to help those in need, of friends setting up online groups to chat, of retired nurses and doctors stepping up to help, of young people giving a hand to elderly neighbors by dropping off some extra groceries at their door. I have to tell you, it gives me a lot of hope. I want to close by recognizing everyone on the front lines who's doing an incredible job of keeping Canadians safe and healthy. Grocers keeping their shelves full and our families fed. Postal workers helping us stay home. Pharmacists filling our prescriptions. Healthcare professionals caring for our most vulnerable. Public health officials and first responders looking out for our safety. I know it's a hard time, but that's exactly why we need to keep supporting each other. Our government is here for you, and your fellow Canadians are here for you too. Merci. Thank you, everyone. Just before we get to questions, I'm supposed to model healthy behavior. I'm going to go grab my coat, and I'll be right back.
Mike
Right,
Armstrong, let's talk about this. There we go. He's got his coat now.
Direct measures for Canadians and tax deferrals. Now questions. Let's listen in.
Hello, Mr. Trudeau. It's Annie Bergeron-Oliver from CTV National News. I'm just wondering, what assurances do you have from President Trump that if this pandemic gets worse, he will not close the borders, crippling trade and necessary shipments in Canada? And also, how long do you expect this temporary closure to last? Will it be weeks? Are you planning for months?
We talked about exactly that this morning, President Trump and I, to ensure that indeed our economies and our people that are so interconnected in so many different ways will be able to ensure the smooth flow of goods and essential materials and medication across the border. That is something that we remain committed to. We will work in close collaboration on an ongoing basis to make sure that that continues. And these measures will last in place as long as we feel that they need to last. We will, again, closely coordinate on that as well.
M. Trudeau, sur la frontière avec les États-Unis, comment ça
On the U.S. border, Mr. Trudeau, how can we make sure that those who are able to cross the border don't infect people here in Canada? How can we make sure also that the border remains open for goods and essential products? Could you be as concrete as possible in your answer? And for how long will this be enforced? Well, working in a very careful way, deliberate way with the U.S. to put in place the rules that will keep Americans and Canadians safe. We understand to what extent it's important that this border remain open. We're talking about $2 billion in trade per day crossing the border. It's essential, really. It's crucial, in fact, and not just for the health of our economy, but also the health of our citizens as well, that this continue. We will also be making sure that these measures protect Canadians while at the same time allowing the import and export of essential goods. In terms of the length of time it'll be enforced, we'll continue to keep an eye on it. We'll keep it in place as long as it needs to be in place, but we'll coordinate between our two countries.
Prime Minister, with all these economic measures being announced, is it inevitable that we're heading into a recession?
I think right now we are focused on making sure that people who are not getting income or revenue because of this COVID-19 challenge have the money to be able to pay for groceries, to pay their rent, to support their families through this difficult time. We recognize that many businesses are closed, many workplaces have significant slowdowns, if not stoppages, and that is going to have an economic impact. But we also know that the fundamentals of the Canadian economy are strong. And in a number of weeks or a number of months or however long it takes,